Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm trying to whisper a little bit because like everyone here in my neighborhood is like outside enjoying a nice beautiful day, so I don't want to be like, I don't know, like this creeper just talking to a camera that everybody's looking at. But I wanted to make just one video where I could share my garden. I'm going to take you guys into the garden, kind of talk about everything that I've got growing. If you guys are new here, welcome to my channel. I don't know what you expect to get from here. I can tell you right off the bat, I'm a newbie gardener. This is the first garden that I've ever put together, but it's something that I decided to try out this year and I have absolutely fallen in love with it. Sorry, I thought there was like a bug crawling up my leg. So everything that you guys are about to see is just me trying and testing and experimenting. Prior to this, I had an absolute, like, is the opposite of a green thumb, a black thumb, because I absolutely would kill any plant that I ever owned. So I didn't have high hopes. I have thoroughly surprised myself with the fact that I've been able to keep anything alive, and it's been something that has brought me so much joy, and so I'm so glad that I get to share it with you guys. So let's just go to the garden. I'll walk you through what we've got going on. You guys are gonna see the garden that is there was here built with the house when we moved into it. When we first moved into this house, I'll be honest, I was thinking that we were gonna like completely demolish that. I was like, we don't need raised beds. When am I ever gonna use them? Like, let's just get rid of it. And I'm so glad that we did not do that, because had we not had that space, I feel like it would have been harder for me to get started. So anyway, let me just take you guys over there and you guys can see what I'm talking about. All right, so this is the garden. There's a lot that we have to redo. Like, we need to redo like the wire on the side because it's kind of like fallen apart over here. Again, I don't know how long this has been here for, but we didn't install this, so I'm sure that it could use some work. But we've got 4 different raised beds, and in terms of like the soil that's here, I'll tell you guys, totally experimented with just like not really doing much to the soil. I really like, all of these beds were full of weeds. It looked like a forest in here, so all I did was like I took out all of the weeds, and then I took off like kind of like the first layer a little bit of whatever soil was here, and then I added some raised bed mix. I think that's what we're gonna go with because I'm not even entirely sure, but I didn't do too much to the actual soil is what I'm trying to say. I had seen that there were like a lot of earthworms, so I think that that was like a good indication that the soil wasn't awful, and so far it seems like most things have been doing okay. So I guess we'll start off over here. Again, I just wanted to document the progress and just show you what we have, and I don't know, just have a place that can just be all things garden. Because whenever I add this stuff into my vlogs, I'm like, half the people probably don't even care about plants, but this has been so cool to watch. So we've got green beans over here. We've got some green beans that are starting to come out. So if you're new to green beans, like I was up until like a few days ago, they've got like all these flowers over here, and then the green beans start coming out of like the blossoms, out of the blooms. You guys can see that. I don't even know if you guys can see that correctly, but that over here is a little baby green bean that's coming out of the flower. So that's been one of the coolest things, is like figuring out how everything grows on a plant. These literally just all started to bloom a few days ago. So you've got little itty bitty ones. Let me see if I can find a bigger one over here. Yeah, you see, if we go in here, we've got like a giant one. Well, this one isn't like a giant. I have had bigger ones, but this is like a nice, decent size green bean. And in terms of like how I planted them, you guys, I think 2 of these were actual plants that I bought at Lowe's or Home Depot. Look at the size of this one. Look at that. That's like the size of quite almost like my hand. So I think 2 of these plants I planted from like a start, from like an actual plant, but then the other ones I planted, like direct sowed them just to see like how they would do, and they did just fine, because like I said, now they're all starting to bloom over here, and you've got quite a bit of green beans. So I've just been picking them and just grabbing them whenever I feel like they look ready. Like this one has already gone way past, like you can kind of see it bulging. So I think I might even leave this one here to dry, because then I can like use the seed, like I can harvest the seed. So we'll figure that out. But those are green beans. These I believe do climb. So I tried to put like a little bit of trellis there to see if it would help climb. I think the fact that they're like all kind of together has kind of kept them upright, but I need to do some more research in terms of like what the best way to have those set up would be. So whatever. Here we have our green beans. Then we have some peas. Peas for me haven't done the greatest, but these are the peas, the little pea pods over here. We've got a couple, and maybe I could grab them. Maybe I leave them. I'm not even entirely sure, but I have a couple like growing over there. And then these, I think they're supposed to keep climbing. I think of all of the stuff that I've got in the garden, these haven't done the best. They tend to like dry out at the bottom. I've even had like a couple of them just dry up and just not thrive. So peas weren't like one of my favorite things or things that I would say, you know, I've done super well with, but we're gonna keep trying and keep learning. And then over here, this is something that I'm pretty happy with, which is a whole bed of lettuce. So most of this I just direct sowed into the ground. I just put the little seeds in the ground. And like you can see, we've got a whole bunch of lettuce that I can actually come in here and harvest. Just grab your scissors or whatever, come in here, take some of the leaves off and make a nice decent salad. And if I'm not mistaken, I should be able to take some of them off and then it'll keep growing, so I'll be able to like harvest a couple times from each of these. These though I'm pretty proud of because these I had grown inside, or I'm not sure if I grew them inside or outside, but I grew them like in little seed trays and then I transplanted them into the garden and they have still survived. There were a couple that died off. Those are still doing okay, so I was expecting them to die. But it's been cool like just to see like the different varieties. This was like one of those packets and like the seed packets that had like an assortment of, I think they called it like chef's lettuce or something. So I do want to come in here and harvest some of this, but I wanted to film this video first. The other thing I have here are Brussels sprouts, and these I planted just as an experiment. It's really hot here right now. We're in Virginia, by the way. I forgot to mention that. And I think we're in zone 7B. I forget if it's 7A or 7B. So it's pretty hot right now. I wasn't expecting these to even get as big as they are right now. But we do love Brussels sprouts. So I was thinking maybe I'll put them in the ground, see what happens. And they haven't died yet, so that's good. Yeah, I feel like I forgot to even mention where we are. So we're in Virginia here. Like I said, 7A or 7B. I want to say it's 7B. So I think my first frost date, if I'm not mistaken, is sometime in October. So I've had to figure all of that out. If you're new to gardening like I was too, you're trying to figure out how long of a growing season you have, because most of these crops will die out when you have your first frost. So some plants take a short amount of time to grow and to harvest, and then other plants take a lot longer. So you want to make sure that when you plant, you have enough time until the plants die, essentially. So I've just been trying to learn through trial and error, like again, what works here, what doesn't, is it too hot for some plants? And I've watched a whole ton of YouTube videos, I've just followed a bunch of gardening accounts, and that's how I've gone learning. But at the same time, I've gone into this with the mentality of like, literally anything that I do, I'm gonna learn something from. So if something doesn't work out, if something is a total failure, that's okay, because I want to have that experience under my belt. I want to learn, like, you know, just as much as I can in this season. And so that would be my encouragement to you guys too, if you've been thinking about gardening. Like, there's so many things that you can do with gardening. You don't even have to have a big garden like this. You can garden like on your front porch, you can garden in pots, as long as you have some sun access, as long as you don't like live in a cave, you can pretty much garden something, you can grow something. But anyway, we'll probably talk about that more, but let me get to the next bed. All right, so this next bed, also kind of experimental in some ways. This though right here is all sweet potatoes. So I planted slips of sweet potatoes, and I bought those I think at Lowe's or Home Depot, and I don't even exactly know what a slip is, but I put it in the ground and it was tiny, and now it is enormous. So all of these are vines and the sweet potatoes are growing under the ground. So at the end of the season, when these are ready to harvest, I'm going to be digging up in there, and then I'm going to be harvesting, God willing, some sweet potatoes, unless there is nothing in there because they are dead and I failed. So that's sweet potatoes. We love sweet potatoes. And then over here, I had planted a couple potatoes. I don't know what happened to all of them. I know that this is a potato plant, and so is this one. So maybe we'll have like 2 potatoes, but I literally don't know. I think I planted like 8 potatoes in the ground, but so far I've only seen like 2 of the plants come up. The rest is really just weeds, you guys. Some of the weeds, when it comes to my garden, like some of the weeds I'll leave because I like them. I think that they look pretty, as maybe dumb as that sounds. Other ones I will go in and take out of the ground, but I've been kind of just leaving the weeds on the ground, doing like chop and drop, like letting the earth absorb the nutrients of the weeds. That's been another experiment, so it doesn't look as pretty as I would like it, but whatever, we're trying that out. So then over here, I put in 2 pumpkin plants, and these were seeds that I planted, and now they are enormous. So again, I have learned that there are plants that are way bigger than I thought they were. So now this one is going to take over this entire bed probably, but I think it'll be cool to see if we can get some kind of a pumpkin going, and I think the kids will enjoy seeing that. It is kind of covering up my zinnias though, so I'm gonna probably end up having to prune some of these leaves, But I put in some zinnias just to attract like more bees and more pollinators, and those have been really nice. I have another one over there, but that's really it in that bed. This bed is probably my favorite. Like the two top ones are my favorite. So we've got onions that I put in here. These I put in from onion sets. So they were like these little bulbs that I put in the ground, and now this is how tall they are. And like you can see, I feel like these onions are starting to get bigger, so they're growing underground, in case you don't even know what an onion grows like, because I didn't even know that onions grew underground like this. So they are growing under there, and then at the end of the season I'll pull them up, and then there's going to be like this big ball that comes up with it, and that is the onion. And then you cut off the stems, and then I'll have some onion. So then the next thing I can talk to you guys about are tomatoes. So tomatoes are by far at this point my favorite things to grow. I've got a couple different varieties here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tomatoes here, like 5 tomato plants here, and then I've got one that I bought in a container from Lowe's. So that one I'll talk about separate. These first 3 tomatoes though, I'm super proud of, because these I grew from seed inside. I grew them in like seed starting trays, and then once they got bigger, I transplanted them into the bed, and they have flourished. They have not died. So again, plants that I had very little hope for, and now these are all starting to grow. So they've got blooms over here, but they actually do have some little itty bitty tomatoes on them. Can you see that? Like, it's sometimes hard to see like the tiny ones. The way that tomatoes work is you've got the flowers, and then from the flowers, like inside the flowers, is where the tomatoes come from. So this used to be a flower, and now there's a tomato growing in there, which I think is just the coolest thing. So we've got a couple little ones down here, and then with time those will get bigger. I forgot what variety those are, so there's different kinds of tomatoes, different varieties of tomatoes, but I'm really proud of those plants. As stupid as that sounds, I freaking love those tomatoes. And then over here, this is a plant that I bought at either the nursery or at Lowe's. It was way smaller than this when I first bought it, but this one is an early girl. So hybrid tomato, early girl. So these are going to be some bigger tomatoes. As you can see, these are getting nice and big, and we've got a whole bunch of tomatoes growing on this plant. So I put together like a little, I don't know, some kind of tomato cage there. I bought this thing from Amazon to try to keep it together. I'm not sure how much bigger this is going to grow, because tomatoes can grow to be pretty big. So if it keeps getting bigger, I'll have to keep adding to the little tomato cage. But yeah, those are my tomatoes. And then this one is different. I bought this one also from the nursery or something. This one is a golden jubilee, and so I just wanted to have a couple different varieties to try. This one has a couple blooms over here, but no actual tomatoes as of yet. This one was like the last one that I bought. So this one is like the youngest plant still, so it's gonna take a little bit longer. In terms of the tomatoes though, I have been coming in here pretty regularly, pruning off the leaves, trying to keep them from like growing into like giant bushes that then I can't even like get in there and see where the fruit is. So I feel like my tomatoes, you guys will also see my zucchini in a little bit, like those 2 plants regularly. Like I'm out here every single morning, every single night. I come out here, see what kind of needs to be pruned, and then I've been trying to keep those like, I don't know, as nice as I can, as much as I know, because again, I'm learning as I go. And then this one over here is just, again, one of these plants that I bought from Lowe's, Husky Cherry Red. So these are cherry tomatoes, and this is just like the easiest thing, because this is a determinate variety, meaning like it's not going to get bigger than it is now. Like it's pretty much set in terms of like its height. The cage already came with it, so I didn't have to worry about, you know, putting any kind of trellis or support system, tomato cage. Like it came like that. So all I had to do is continue to water it and continue to like prune the leaves whenever necessary. Some of them are starting to get a little bit brown. I don't know if that just happens like towards the end of the season, or if it's just been super hot, which I mean, it has been super hot. But they go changing colors. So some of them are getting near, you know, ripeness. I picked a whole bunch of them the last couple days. I actually made myself a really nice like caprese kind of salad today for lunch with all of the cherry tomatoes that I had harvested, which was super cool. But they start off green, and then they start getting a little bit yellow, and then they turn orange, and then they turn red. So it's been super cool to see like just how they've developed. And then there's still some even at the top, like there's even more blooms up here. Is that what you call them? Blooms, flowers? I don't even know the correct terminology, so please don't be following me for like legit expert advice. But there's still a whole bunch of them that are there. So if I continue to get tomatoes, like I'm gonna be super happy because I'm already happy with the ones that I've harvested. So I don't know how long I will keep getting tomatoes, but keep them coming because I freaking love tomatoes. See that little white, is it like a butterfly? Can you guys see that white thing over there? Is that a butterfly? It's like a really beautiful butterfly, if that's what it is. But we've had a lot of pollinators here in the garden, which I love. A lot of bees, a lot of wasps. Are those pollinators too? I don't even know, but a lot of bees, a lot of butterflies. And it's so funny, and I'm sorry, like I have to like talk to you guys all weird because it's super hot and sunny outside, but it's so funny because of the fact that like I used to be deathly afraid of bees and wasps. Like I used to run in the opposite direction if they were even like, I don't know, 5 feet in front of us. And here in my house, we get like these gigantic bumblebees, like no lie, they're like this big. So I used to be deathly afraid of them. And now when I come to the garden and I see the bees, I'm like, thank you, my friend, you're helping me out. Like you do your thing, peace be with you. Like please don't hurt me, but I'm not gonna try to hurt you because you're helping me pollinate my plants. And so now, like, I don't know, I'm not as terrified of them as I used to be, but I welcome them here in my garden as long as they don't sting me. But anyway, let's keep going. So here next to the tomatoes, I planted some corn, and I wasn't even sure how you were supposed to plant corn, but I think I did it right in the sense that they're kind of close together because if I'm not mistaken, and again, feel free to give me any advice, tips in the comments, but the corn has to be kind of close together so that they can like pollinate one another. Because I think that when like the wind comes and starts moving the plants around, like then they pollinate one another because like the pollen falls from one plant to the other. But this corn, I believe that's like the tassel or the flower of the corn. This one is the most developed of my corn, you guys, is what I'm trying to say. So I've got a whole bunch of corn that I planted there. And then underneath the corn, I tried planting some green beans in between the corn because I've heard of like the Three Sisters thing where like you can put green beans like at the base of the corn, and then the green beans should like use the corn to like support its growth. So like interplanting, finding ways to use space within plants, and kind of being smart about like how you use the space in the garden. So that's been an experiment. They seem to be doing okay right now, but there's still no blooms because they're still kind of early on in the game there. And then over here, this is a watermelon plant. I had actually planted 2 watermelon, which was absolutely a mistake because this thing alone is ginormous. Like the other one is, I think, like right underneath it. But the watermelon plant is actually beautiful. Like I love the leaves on watermelon, and I had never seen this up until now, and I am 31 years old. So it's just been really cool just to see how all these plants grow and how the fruit forms. So all of this is that giant watermelon plant. I haven't seen any fruit yet, but the vines are growing. And then these are my 2 sunflowers. So I just planted them in the ground, the seeds, the 2 sunflowers. They've been growing like weeds at this point. Every time that I come out here, they're like bigger than they were in the morning. So that's been pretty cool. And then I've got like another zinnia next to it. So the bees love this area. Another reason why they love this area is because we have mint like crazy. And that's not mint that I planted. This is mint that the previous homeowners had. And so look at the size of that bumblebee. Can you guys see it? That thing, oh my god, that thing is like the size of a $50. But anyway, they love the mint because this is what mint looks like when you let it flower. When it gets to the point that it's flowering, you've got these really pretty like flowers at the end, which I actually like how the plant looks. So I haven't trimmed it back. Again, I'm trying to invite these pollinators into the garden to help out with the cantaloupe that's over here that you guys will see in a second, and the zucchini. But all of this is mint. And earlier, like in the springtime, I would come out here and take some and then put them in water. And I do like mint water. If I liked mojitos, this would have been perfect because all of this, literally all of that along the fence is all mint. And that's that. I have trimmed like a couple pieces because this used to be like a giant mint forest. So that is mint. Over here used to be my little strawberry patch. And this is a giant weed. I don't know exactly what it's called, but I've left it again to see if the bees like it. But this used to be my strawberry patch. And for a while, some strawberries were being produced, but also the birds were eating them. So at this point, I kind of gave up on my strawberries. There is every once in a while like a couple that'll like pop through, and I'll try to get them before the birds do. But at this point, there's not that many strawberries, so this is where they used to be. I do have one raspberry plant which is that thing that kind of looks like it's about to die because it's crooked. I bought that at Lowe's, planted it, and you're not supposed to see raspberries until like the second year anyway. So I just kind of had it there in the back, but now it's like all over the place. So I have to figure out what to do with that. Same with this plant. I had bought a blackberry plant, and there are maybe some fruits forming. I've seen a couple, like there were a couple here that we harvested, but I haven't really been paying too much attention to them. But that is a little blackberry plant. This right here is my current struggle, you guys, because as pretty as this is a cantaloupe plant, or at this point, is it 2 cantaloupe? I think it's probably 2 cantaloupe plants, and I think 1 would have been too many already. The vines are out of control. I don't even know if there's any fruit yet, because you see there's a lot of flowers, but I'm not sure if any of the female flowers have been pollinated. I'd have to like look through this jungle, but from like one day to the next, it exploded because it was a fine little tiny plant minding its own business, not taking over the rest of the garden. And then the next day I came out here and I was like, what on earth did I do? Because this is insanity. But this is what we're kind of looking for. We're looking for, there's male flowers, in case you've never seen anything about a cantaloupe. So there's a male flower that looks like this, you see? Like there's no, like, it doesn't look like a circle, it just looks like a basic flower. And then this is a female flower when it looks like a little circles behind it and then that flower is blooming. So what you're looking for is for this flower to be pollinated by the male flower. And then if it is pollinated, this will start to grow and turns into the cantaloupe. So I'm not sure if that one was pollinated or not, but hopefully we'll see some kind of action here soon. But we'll move on to my zucchini, because my zucchini has been super like just active, and it has produced a lot of zucchini already. So here we've got a couple that are almost ready to be harvested. I could probably harvest that one. This one also is currently growing. Then over here on this side, we've got another one that's pretty big. So this one, I've already harvested a good like 4 or 5 zucchinis. They keep coming. Every time that they get about 5 or 6 inches, I grab them and I take them inside and I cook with them. In the morning when you come out here, it's so pretty because all of these flowers, not all of them, but a lot of them open up and they are like these beautiful yellow zucchini flowers. And then same with like the cantaloupe. There's male flowers that look like this, that just have like the long stem. And then there are female flowers that look like these. And when this gets pollinated, this long thing turns into that giant zucchini over there. So it's been super cool to learn that, to know that there's male flowers and female flowers. I will tell you guys that in the beginning weeks of me learning how to, like, I don't know, just figure out my zucchini plant, I did hand pollinate a couple of them, which was like a weird experience because I feel like I'm freaking inseminating flowers. And basically what I did is I took a paintbrush. I kind of took the paintbrush and put it like inside the male flower and then kind of got some of the pollen from that flower and then pressed it up against the female flower to see if that would help. I did that a couple times and I think it worked because I believe that that fruit ended up growing. But at this point, I haven't done it in a while just because I see that there's so many bees and I feel like there's enough pollinators and I see enough action happening in my garden that I can kind of stay out of it. So just know that that's something that you can do. And I believe that you can also do that with cantaloupe. I think that it's kind of like the same thing. Like if I don't see that there's any action happening over there in a more natural sense, then I'll have to go in there and try to see if I speed things up, you know, with my paintbrush. So that's the world of zucchini. So these leaves get huge and I've pruned so many leaves. Like I come in here and I have to prune so many. I actually have 3 plants here and I'm probably going to end up having to maybe remove the other 2 because like this right here, like just this is one plant. This giant thing is another plant and then there's another plant all on its lonesome over there. So all of this is one plant. So I don't think that this one's going to have any space unless it all comes onto like my little walkway. So I'm kind of just waiting to see what happens, to see how much bigger it gets. But for zucchini, you need a lot of space. So that is something that I learned that I'll take into account next season. Over here, you guys, I have broccoli and this has been the most amazing thing to watch because the broccoli grows like from the middle of the plant. And I'm sure that you guys watching this are probably professional gardeners or you know more than I do, but I had no idea that broccoli grew like this. So this I bought from Lowe's also, like a little tiny plant, a little starter plant. And then I put it in the ground here, and this thing grew to become enormous. And then for a while it didn't do much, and then like in the last maybe week or so, this thing has started to grow so much. So every time I come out here, it's bigger and bigger, the head of broccoli. And soon I have to look and see and do some research on like exactly when I can harvest it. Maybe it's already ready. I can go ahead and harvest that and have some broccoli. And then in here, the only other real thing I have to show you guys is I have some mint. This I bought from a local nursery. It was a little smaller when I bought it, and then I put it in here, and it has continued to grow, and it's been great because I will come in here and harvest from it. And I've had this like on pizza, I've had this on like tomato salads that I make, caprese or whatever. It is so nice to have basil. And then I have a little bit of cilantro back here, but cilantro is not like doing the best. I'm not sure if it needs to be like shaded or if it needs more heat. Like I didn't think I want it to be too hot, so I'm like, perfect, I can put it underneath the broccoli. But now I don't know if it's like too much shade. But I do have a little bit of cilantro there that I have been able to harvest and have like in my omelets, so that's pretty cool. And then this I also have here, which is a little bit of sage. I haven't used it yet. I've just been kind of watching it grow. I haven't had the best luck, honestly, with herbs, but this one is still alive, still standing, so we're happy with that. And then I did the other day, I put in like a couple wildflowers here. I'm kind of waiting for them to sprout. I was trying to see like what empty spots I had and like where I could make use of the space. I forgot to tell you guys that over here I have a couple of carrots. So these guys over here are carrots that are still like baby, and I honestly don't even know how well they're doing. And then I also planted a couple, like I direct sowed a couple more seeds like right along here that I'm kind of waiting to see if those will grow. But that's really the extent of the garden. This is my pride and joy at the moment. Like I'm just so happy with it. It brings me so much happiness. I'm gonna take you up to the deck really quick just to show you a couple more things that I have. But now that we're kind of getting to like the hotter months, I'm trying to wait till maybe like the end of August to maybe plant some more like fall crops, or I don't know if I have to wait till like the beginning of August, end of August. But there are still some plants that should still be able to grow through like fall. Things like spinach that I plan on still doing, because we did have spinach in there. We had it up until maybe a couple weeks ago. Spinach did great, but then as the temperatures rose, it did start to just like flower, and it was bad at that point. But the spinach that we did eat, Joe had it, and like Joe loves spinach, and he's like, this spinach is so much better than any store-bought spinach I've ever had. So I can confirm that spinach from the garden was super, super tasty. So I hope that at the very least we can continue to plant some of that and harvest some spinach, because we love that over here. And then up here on the deck, this is where I started off the video talking to you guys. I bought this plant yesterday at Home Depot. This is like a celosia. I think it's called like a lipstick celosia. I don't even know how to say that word, but I thought it was beautiful, and Riley helped me pick it out. So I was like, well, we'll bring it home and we'll put it somewhere. But this is super pretty. I've really never seen plants like this. So I have that here. I've also been just experimenting with planting some things in container just to see how they do compared to like in the garden bed. So these are a couple Brussels sprouts, just trying to keep them alive and see if they'll grow here. And then same with this. This is a cantaloupe plant in this tiny little container. So you guys saw like how large that got in the garden. So I'm trying to see if I can keep, like, as this grows, put it in a bigger pot and just see how it does in a container. These two are actually cantaloupe. These were arugula, I think. I wasn't sure if I was going to keep them just for like baby greens or if I was going to just let them grow. So these are actually kind of dying. So I have to figure out what to do with that. And then this was another experiment that I did. This was my first time ever saving seeds. So there was a cantaloupe that I had bought at the store, and I harvested the seeds. Like, I saved the seeds from that cantaloupe, and then I planted them to see if they would germinate. And I think right now we've got like 5 out of the 6, maybe even, actually I think they all did. So I saved those seeds in little seed packets. Whether or not I'll put these in the ground, I don't know, because I really don't think I have space. But that was like a cool way to like learn that I could at least save some seeds. And then over here I have just some more Brussels sprouts that I had in like a little 6-pack tray. These are tomato seeds. So this is exactly how I grew those big tomato plants. When I was first getting started, I started them off in just like a tiny little container like this, and then I kept transplanting them into like a bigger container as they got bigger, and then eventually I put them in the garden. So this is what a little tiny baby tomato plant looks like. And then I have just a couple of herbs that I've been trying out here for like the 5th time. Got time here. These other ones I don't think are gonna make it because Riley was watering them, and I think she totally flooded them, and like the seeds like were removed with like the mountain of water that she put there. So I think I'll probably be getting rid of those. It also have like a little lavender plant back there, which I love. Like lavender looks so pretty, and maybe at some point I'd love to find like a more permanent spot for lavender so that it can like keep coming back year after year. But I think at this point it's just been so hot that like most of it has dried up. So that's probably the end of lavender for now. But that, you guys, is the extent of my garden tour. I hope if anything, I don't know, maybe you learned about like how a plant grows, or you saw like what a nerd I am and like how I knew nothing when I first got started. But like I keep saying, it's been so fun to learn and to like just like spend time out there, spend time like away from my phone. Like I feel like one of the things that I love about the garden is the fact that like I spend so much of my life on Instagram, on YouTube, like on technology and editing videos and being on my computer. And so when I'm in the garden, like I'm not doing that, except for like when I go and I take pictures of them and then share them on Instagram, or you know, just record the progress. But it's like a way for me to just like put down the electronics and just be like alone with my thoughts and my screaming children most of the time, but like just my thoughts and nature. And it's been very calming, it's been very peaceful, and it's been really fun to see like me actually have some success and like see something actually grow from the time that I put it in, you know, into the ground as a tiny seed, and watch like all the different, you know, stages of development. So I hope that maybe that encourages you, that if it's something you want to try, like give it a shot. Like the most important thing that you need to know is like what zone you live in. So you can go on like Google and type in like what's my gardening zone, and then usually those calculators will tell you like to put in your zip code, and then it'll tell you your growing zone, because normally like the back of seed packets or like some of these growing guides are going to base that information on like what zone you're in, because depending on like what temperature, depending on like what your frost date is, like it'll tell you like when you should start putting stuff in the ground and when you should start growing things, all of that. So just know your growing zone, and then just know how much time is left from now to your frost date. Like at what point is the temperature going to be way too cold that your plants are not going to thrive, that your plants are going to die. And then if you have, you know, let's say you have like 60 days until the frost day, then if there's any kind of plant that takes less than 60 days to harvest, you can put that in the ground, whether it's in a container, whether it's in a garden, and then hopefully you can, you know, have something to harvest at the end of the season. So that's it, you guys. I love your faces. Thank you for being here. This is my garden as a newbie, my first season. I hope to do many more of these. I hope to be able to, throughout the years, show you my progress. Maybe at the end of the season I'll show you like what the garden looks like at that point. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks for hanging out with me. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.